This week marks the first week of 5 weeks that we're going to do as a community together on sermons by request. So if you haven't been around for a little bit, this is what has happened. A couple of weeks ago, we sent out little pink slips of paper for people to think about something that they would like a sermon on. And we got those back and we collated them, and we have 5 weeks. This week, the first question is, what does it mean to be a Christian? Next week, the topic is capturing joy. The week after that, Lynn Haley is going to be here. She's going to do a sermon on healing. The week after that, one on aging. And then the final week, God's work, God's will, and free will. So, if you want that list, I don't know if it's in the bulletins, but it's definitely on the Facebook page. Check it out. So this week, what does it mean to be a Christian? To go at this question, I thought it might be best to start with what I think it is not. Let's go at this from the negative first, and then we'll try and see what's left over and go at it from the other way. So what does it mean to not be a Christian, or what is not Christian? Now, a word of, I know, whether it's laziness on my part, but sometimes I'm going to refer to Christianity and sometimes I'm going to refer to Christian, and I'll kind of go back and forth between those terms. So first, to start off, 5 things that I think Christianity is not. First of all, I don't think Christianity is a formula. Now, I was never very good at math. I'm not sure, maybe some of you here, it came much more naturally. I remember in high school this moment. I was always a marks kind of guy, like wait for the mark, and I got a test back, and I got 1 out of 15. It's like, oh, this is the worst. Now, somehow I managed to squeak by. I finished grade 12 calc and all that kind of stuff, but it was unpleasant. But, it's funny that math has that, because really math is about dealing with knowns and unknowns, right? You have a certain set of information that you know and a certain set of information that you don't know, and you can simply figure out from the pieces that you know what you don't know. And sometimes you don't have enough information, but most of the time there's a problem at the end of it. You can go in the back of the textbook and cheat. Well, this is really the answer. So, I think sometimes we turn Christianity into a formula, right? We say, baptism equals Christian, done, right? It's that simple, right? Is it? I don't think it is. Other people think it's P. You say this prayer, and it equals C, Christian. Or baptism, B, plus P for prayer equals Christian. Is Christianity really that simple? Is being a Christian all about just like some formula that we work up to what we don't know? Well, I would say it's not. And Christianity, I don't believe, is a brand either. How many of you are loyal to a certain brand of coffee? Any of you? Okay. Yes. How many of you are brand to a certain kind of car or pickup truck? A few? Yeah. And the funny thing about brands is we are loyal to them in a really funny way, right? Even if a pickup truck company makes the worst pickup truck, people will still buy it because they're loyal to that specific brand, right? Same with Apple and PC. If Apple came out with a terrible computer, people would buy it, even if it was terrible. And the thing with branding is we go around and we like to say things are like that or are not like that. In some ways, it turns things very binary. You're either an Apple person or a PC person. There's Linux people too, but I don't really know much about that. And we like to claim things as Christian or not Christian, right? So we do this, let's say, for example, with music. We take a look at a band and we say, their lyrics, well, those are very Christian lyrics, but They don't call themselves a Christian band, so it's not Christian. Well, that's crazy. Same with people. Like, I've heard people say about other people, oh, they're not a Christian. As if you can label somebody else, you can brand them in a certain way. So I don't think Christianity is a brand either. I also don't think Christianity is a checklist. So I worked at summer camps for a while, and when kids would register for summer camps, they would get a checklist of everything that they were supposed to bring to camp. Right? Bring a sleeping bag so you can be warm at night. Bring a flashlight because the cabin will be dark and there'll be all sorts of fun games in the wood. Bring a swimming suit so that you can go swimming, and bring a towel so that you can dry off at the end, and bring a change of clothes, and bring sneakers so you can run around. All these things that we ask kids to bring to camp. But when they get to camp, we don't say like, oh, you've got your checklist, you're going to have, your camp experience is complete, right? We wait for them to have the experience of camp. The things on the checklist help them with that, right? It's always more fun to play a game if you've got shoes to run around in. It's always more fun to go swimming if you've got swimming trunks. It's more fun to sleep at night when you're warm. The checklist helps them with it, but the checklist is not the camp experience. So Christianity is not a checklist. And our checklist often turns into something like this. I prayed X amount of times a day, check. I went to church on Sunday, check. I visited 3 people in the hospital this week, check. I go on and on. We've created this big checklist. You know, I put the Jesus fish on the back of my car, check. I posted one thing about faith on Facebook this week, check. You know, that's not what Christianity is about, and that's not what being a Christian is about. Christianity is not a monopoly. So first of all, there's the game Monopoly. I like board games a lot, but I actually really dislike Monopoly. And so you think about Monopoly. So how many games of Monopoly end in a flipped board, right? It's like, oh, this is the worst game ever, and somebody throws it over. Like, I'm not playing anymore, right? And it's also, think about what Monopoly is, right? The way you win Monopoly is by destroying your neighbor in a game of economic empire, right? So people, you know, you can play a game of Monopoly that's 4 hours long, and somebody might get kicked out in the first 20 minutes, right? And sometimes we've turned Christianity into a monopoly, at least historically, right? Like, we've literally gone into whole nations and said, believe or you will die. And the other way it plays out is that we take a look at our faith and we say, this is the way to truth. All of those other ways of truth, well, they don't have anything. Oh, that's such slippery slope. And we are living the consequences of that now, right here, right, with residential schools. There's nothing good about that tradition, so we just throw it out completely. And Christianity is not a ticket. This ties in very much with the idea that it's not a formula and it's not a checklist. It's not a ticket, right? It's not a ticket to something, right? I am a Christian, therefore, boom, heaven, like harps, woohoo. And it's not about unlimited blessings, right? I think a lot of people think, I'm a Christian, therefore I will know my faithfulness by the fact that many more blessings are bestowed upon me. It's like something called prosperity theology. Hey, look how many blessings I have. So Christianity is not a ticket. So it's not a formula, and it's not a brand, and it's not a checklist, and it's not a monopoly. So what is it? Here's what I think it is. I think Christianity is a set of teachings which invokes a way of being that changes us and changes the world. And this set of teachings is based on a man who lived about 2,000 years ago, a man named Jesus. So what he taught and what he said and what he did teaches us how to live and be. I think that's what Christianity is. So, what are those teachings? Well, many of you will know them. A lot of this isn't new. But I think they are in stark contrast to what it is not. So Christianity is about justice and peace. Because Jesus taught about justice and peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, he said. And when you look at all the people that he talked with and made friends with, they're people who had the boot of oppression pressed up on their neck since they were born. He goes and touches people who everyone said shouldn't be touched. He goes and talks to people because people said you're not supposed to talk with them. And Christianity is about healing and forgiveness. There's a really powerful story of a woman who's been bleeding for 12 years. And there's a crowded marketplace, and everyone's bumping up against everyone else. And this woman reaches out and she touches the garb of Jesus, and she's healed. And Jesus says, "Go, your faith has made you well." And to many people, he comes up to them and he says, "You are forgiven." And Christianity is about journey and question. When Jesus encounters Peter on the lakeshore, he hands him a checklist and says, "Do these things and then you'll be done." No. He says, "Here, fill out this formula and you'll be done." No, of course he doesn't. He says, "Peter, come, follow me." And then he dies. And then there's a resurrection story. And Peter again is on the lakeshore. And what does Jesus say? He doesn't say, "Fill out this checklist, complete this formula, go and evade nations so that they may all believe in me." He simply says, "Follow me, feed my sheep." And Christianity is about prayer and meditation. Often Jesus would go up the mountain to pray, either early in the morning or late at night. Figure out a way to get out of it all and remind himself that he's rooted in the Creator. And we are invited to do the same, to take Sabbath, to take time to pray. And it is about salvation and hope. There's this one moment in the scriptures where Jesus has a rich man come and say, "Jesus, what do I need to do to follow you?" And he says, "Sell everything you have and follow me." What I think's really going on in that story is he says to this man, "You think these possessions are going to save you. Your participation in the empire that is at play will not. Let me show you a different way of being. Let me show you what it really means to be saved." And in that, we find hope. So Christianity, well, it's not a formula, a checklist, a brand, a monopoly, a ticket. It's peace and justice, healing and forgiveness, journey and questions, prayer and meditation and contemplation, salvation and hope. It's about a man who one time, just before he died, broke bread and said, "Do this as a way of remembering my love for you." The same guy who just moments earlier took off his outer robe, put on a towel, became like the least of the servants in his time and washed his disciples' feet. Even the ones that were about to betray him, even the ones who were about to sell him out for a few coins. It's about lived out love. So that's what the teachings are. So we want to ask ourselves, well, what is a Christian? It's somebody who follows those teachings as they try to live out love in the world. Amen.